Christos Anesti, Christ is risen. This is Father Jonathan. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to continue our conversation about the fruit of the Spirit, and I wanted to start off by saying, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I will say rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to all men. The Lord is at hand. Be anxious about nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Now, these words of St. Paul are taken from his epistle to the Philippians, and they implore us to rejoice, to be people of joy. We are told to allow our gentleness to show forth, to be anxious about nothing, to be thankful. In doing so, we will find that peace, the peace of God, will guard our hearts and minds. At the same time, when we are at peace, we will be more inclined to be joyful. What is interesting about St. Paul's language in this passage we just heard is that he never indicates that there will not be circumstances which might make us anxious. Being joyful does not mean the absence of struggle, of uncertainty, or even turmoil. These will be in our lives. Joy, we might say, is what happens when we orient ourselves towards the ultimate good. Even when the waves of this life crash all around us. The reality of all this, however, is that we are going to have to work at it. We cannot just say, I am not going to be anxious, and not feel anxious. We will have feelings of anxiety and thoughts that accompany those feelings. So we will have to do the work. As St. Paul puts forth, we will have to, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let our requests be made known to God. Joy will come when we orient ourselves towards God. And when we direct our attention towards God, we will find ourselves more joyful, more at peace. And only in this way will the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, be made known. And it will guard our hearts, as St. Paul says, and minds through Christ Jesus. The feelings and the thoughts that we have, those things that are sources of our present anxieties, will be replaced with peace. In this peace, we will find greater cause for joy. And that being said, we must not conflate the virtue of joy, the fruit of the Spirit, which is joy, with the feeling of happiness. Being happy is not a virtue. Happiness is fickle, fleeting, ultimately impermanent. Think of it as something dependent on externals, which are themselves without permanence. So how can something without permanence give us lasting joy? Joy is an internal disposition that emerges out of our relationship with God, whom we encounter not in some distant space, but within our hearts. Joy is our natural state because it arises from the core of our being, irrespective of our circumstances. We can therefore always rejoice, inasmuch as we are truly at peace, a peace for which we struggle willingly. This is our call when we seek out joy, to be where we are and yet rejoice. For joy does not depend on what's going on around us, but within us. Now, tomorrow we will be concluding our series on the fruit of the Spirit with what the Fathers have called the chief of the virtues, love. And ultimately, we will find that our whole spiritual life is about this, cultivating, maintaining, and enacting love in a world in desperate need of it. And in this way, when we have love, when we cultivate love, when we enact love, we are truly participating in God's divine life. For as we will talk about tomorrow, God is love. God bless you. We truly love you. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Call us, email us, send us messages on social media, leave messages in the comments, anything at all that you need. We're here for you. Christos Anesti, Christ is risen.